been looking around in recent weeks about how new World Heritage sites have been selected and how you can develop the natural and community tourism, developing ecotourism. I have worked on the Kuliana project, Communities Combating Climate Change. I've worked on local Agenda 21 issues. I've been Environment and Human Rights representative for Ireland in the 90s. I was founder of the Shannon Earthwatch group. I was the information officer on the Woodlands project. I'm the Corporations Officer of the Community Transport Association of Ireland and the Centre for Environmental Living, and I've been an activist since the 70s. If you look at my Facebook page, you'll see photos of me handing out leaflets in Belgium in the early 70s. Sorry, mid-70s. Not quite that old. I have been a representative of and member of various amount of committees, NGOs. I've sat on policy committees. I've represented local initiatives. I've represented Ireland nationally and internationally, and I think we should have concentrate on how we can get the community back into voluntary and community sector, how we can get people motivated, how to get people to think about their own communities within their own local areas. So I'm very much about using the facilities of information to support local community decision making and grassroots volunteerism. We need to get things in Europe more democratic. To raise environmental law, we need to have the ability to get the European Parliament to initiate legislation rather than react to legislation which is put to it. At the moment, all the legislation comes from the Commission, and the European Parliament has the power of amendments, approval, etc. There are international treaties which has the power to agree or not to agree, but we need to have the situation that the European Parliament can come up with ideas and then put them forward for discussion, as it were. We need to have concentration on climate change, on priorities, laws which will make a progression towards steady state economy. We need to think about how we can change things and get people to think about the environment. And this is the most important thing. We need to change people's minds, need to think of environment as not just something that is out there, but something that they need to be involved in. %, yes, given that emissions are already too high, it should be actually a lot higher. Last night we were talking about 60%, even going further. We're at 50% at best chance of stopping temperatures rise by 2 degrees. That will cause methane hydrate to start to enter the atmosphere, and that will lead to runaway greenhouse effect. It should be better stressed that the targets for 2030 and 2050 have to be more aggressive. We have to do better. I think that we should work towards rebalancing the economies back towards a steady state economy, work out what we can do, what resources we have in the finite world, how we're going to go forward. It's not rocket science. There's lots of books about how to move forward. There's lots of information out there. 21 years ago, we were discussing similar issues at the formation of Earthwatch Group down country. The Men of the Trees International were talking about issues about how we could encourage diversity. Should we go for grants for evergreen or broadleaf trees? I remember the issue was that how can we get farmers to talk about sustainable forests and getting international grants for basically having land returned back to nature. The Irish Farmers Association just did not want to engage with us on this topic. Maybe we should revisit this again. The money still is there, that you can encourage people to take land from farming back to have sustained forests to encourage biodiversity. This again comes back to steady state economy, how to manage a system to make it sustainable, to decouple growth, to manage finite resources. Books, yes, the spirit level. There's enough is enough, prosperity without growth. Professor Tim Jackson. There's lots of stuff out there. Supply shock. FISNUA is the only political party, according to the Centre for Advancement of Steady State Economy, that's actually signed up to steady state economics. Now, there's a lot on the FISNUA website. Maybe other political parties should actually go looking for some policies in this area from our websites. Environmental impact assessment is definitely necessary. Now, organizations like Antashka, and I'm sure you can talk to Eric here, are very good at raising issues in planning applications. Anything which has to be envisioned involving fracking has to have how it is going to affect the natural environment, the groundwater and stuff like this. Asking us if we would demand a strategic environmental assessment and before any exploratory license for shale gas could be issued, that's pretty much a given. I mean, it's definitely a yes. The whole system of the TTIP is all done behind closed doors. It's secretive. It's subversive. I don't like what's going on. I don't understand how globalization is eroding even national sovereignty and local decision making. It's against the grassroots. It's against local Agenda 21. And no, I will not support anything that comes from it, because we need total accountability, transparency, and we need to know what's going on, and we need to know that it's making things better, not worse. Just say no. The obvious thing we should have is everything that has genetically modified contents has to be stated, and countries that don't allow it simply don't allow it. If you have 19 out of 27 countries, as it says there, voted against genetically modified food, then they simply refuse to allow it and basically say that this is not considered safe. Public health standards. There's ways to get around things if you really insist. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you can't do this, this is against free trade. No, you don't know what's going to happen if it's genetically modified, because it's not going to work the exact same way as the original item from which it is genetically derived. There is no science behind the pseudoscience of genetically modified ingredients. So you can't say this is safe, genetically modified, and this is not. Which countries haven't signed up against genetically modified? That should be listed, named and shamed. Which countries? No. We should find out, and we need to highlight this to say why haven't they signed against genetically modified? What is their issues? You know, the majority should rule, as it were. We need to find out, and we need to make the information available. I grew up in Belgium. In Belgium, there's local, provincial, national, and international cycling routes. I was twice bronze medalist for road safety and in traffic school in the province of Antwerp. And I have organised fun runs and cycle trips. I've engaged in long distance cycling a number of times in my life. Before I had arthritis, I used to cycle a lot. It's quite problematic for me because quite a lot of pain these days. But generally speaking, although I have not read the manifesto, I probably would be extremely supportive of it. Yes, there's a lot of studies about how people, where they live, relation to the property prices, the poverty, and the environment. Professor Anthony Staines has done some studies on social welfare and expectations. You can see that areas around the canals and rivers tend to be populated by people with the lowest incomes. You can see that these will be floodplains. Anthony Staines, if you have a look at his stuff on disability, autism, and social justice, he does in DCU, you can find that certain corridors are impoverished compared to other areas. You'll find that the cheapest properties and the cheapest land are in areas which are in the floodplain, and people wondered why they have problems with flooding. Yeah. Now, lots of places are, but the situation is that this has not really been highlighted much. That you have the poorest people living in the cheapest land because nobody else wants it because it's likely to flood. That it's in an area nobody else wants to be in. The property prices are cheap for a good reason. Now. Is it? So, well, may possibly be the case, but it's interest to see social justice and poverty. I think there needs to be more studies done as to transport facilities. And appropriate. Now, one thing I learnt when I was in Belgium between 3 and 5 weeks ago is they've changed the planning regulations that they have the toilets on one side of the building and the bathroom for bathing and showers on the other. And the reason that this happens so you don't have wastewater coming back up the system. That the systems are completely separately set up and it's more efficient. I find it absurd. I'm incurring extremely high standing charges a bin because I need to have 2 bins for recycling because we have hardly any waste in our with us. We have a compost bin out the back. We have a biomass bin, and almost everything is recycled. I can't understand how the system has been allowed to get away with breaching what is essentially a sensible directive. I mean, there are very few sensible European directives, and this was one.